pastor versus pastor. He's from a Christian conservative megachurch. He's a committed liberal. Both driving their flocks to the polls in the high-stakes race to get out the vote. How the faith factor could make that crucial difference.
From the global resources of ABC News, with Terry Moran in Washington, Martin Bashir and Cynthia McFadden in New York City, this is Nightline, November 6th, 2006.
When we come back from this break, dueling pastors in the heartland, faith versus faith, as campaign 2006 really goes down to the wire.
Nightline continues from Washington with Terry Moran.
Communities of faith, churches in particular, have long had an outsized influence on American elections, and the faith factor will certainly be a major force in tomorrow's vote. But religious leaders are not marching in lockstep when it comes to political allegiances, especially not this year. ABC senior national correspondent Jake Tapper reports from Columbus, Ohio.
Reverend Tim Ahrens of the First Congregational Church of Columbus, Ohio, is out registering voters today.
What we're here to do is stop by and make sure folks are going to get out to vote. And I'm trying to see, I had a note here. Did you vote in the last election?
I did not.
Aha! See?
This thing we're here.
Yeah,
it's
see?
really important that you vote on Tuesday.
Yes, I know.
Are you planning on voting on Tuesday?
I am.
Make no mistake, what's motivating Aaron's civic-mindedness in no small part is anger. Anger with Christian conservatives.
We're sick and tired of the religious right saying this is what faith looks like.
44 million lives have met with a tragic and violent end. That's almost
Specifically, Ahrens is upset with this man, Pastor Rod Parsley of the World Harvest Church just outside of town. Parsley was a leader in the drive 2 years ago for a referendum banning same-sex marriage in Ohio. He is an outspoken, very successful evangelist who often sermonizes on subjects like abortion, as he did just yesterday.
Abortion, very simply, kills a baby, and it kills that baby in a gruesome fashion.
A group of liberal clergy filed a complaint with the IRS against Parsley and another minister for allegedly going too far in preaching politics from the pulpit. Ahrens was not a part of that group, but he does think Parsley is besmirching the name of Christians and Christ himself. And in response, he's formed a brand new organization of more liberal religious leaders called We Believe Ohio.
Pastor after pastor shared stories of members of their church that don't tell people they're Christian, because Christian means right wing, Christian means reactionary, Christian means all of these things. Now, for those of us who love Jesus, you know, it doesn't mean any of those things, but it's become that because of the ultra right wing.
It says here he votes sometimes, age 31. Let's see if he's home.
Let's go.
Tomorrow, Ohio voters will go to the polls and cast ballots on momentous races: governor, senator, House of Representatives. But Ohio also faces a deeper, more theological battle as to what Jesus stands for and his proper role in the political arena. Reverend Parsley had already been criticized for inappropriately blending politics and religion, but Parsley ardently denies the charge.
There has been a complaint, I don't need to tell you, that from other pastors saying that you are violating the IRS code.
Right, and it's just that. It's a complaint by a consortium of liberal ministers, politically motivated, to see to it that we go back into our sanctuaries and don't engage the public.
Last year, Parsley raised even more liberal eyebrows when he announced the formation of Reformation Ohio.
We believe that the time is now for change, a change that we expect will be the blueprint for change in our nation as a whole.
Parsley explained to us today what the program aims to do.
First of all, preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ over the next 4 years to 1 million Ohioans. Secondly, to do compassionate outreach to Ohio's poorest families. And thirdly, to conduct nonpartisan voter registration and get out the vote campaigns.
But what Ahrens remembers about Parsley's press conference last year is the rhetoric.
We are here launching a verifiable revolution.
Parsley and the Patriot pastors were on the steps of the State House declaring that they were lock, loading, and firing on Ohio. And I just lost it. I just, I didn't know what to do. I sort of spit my coffee across the room. I just was shocked. And Because the question I had was a question of faith. What does this have to do with Jesus?
I think the exact quote is, "Man your battle stations, ready your weapons, lock and load. Let the revolution begin with a shout unto him who has called us to war and empowered us to win." That is 21st century onward Christian soldiers, if you will, and it's much ado about nothing.
Reverend Ahrens argues that even though conservative Christian pastors focus on homosexuality, that subject's only mentioned in about 0.1% of the good book. Rather, he says, the Scripture's focus is helping the poor. And for that reason, this year he's endorsed a referendum in Ohio in favor of increasing the minimum wage.
I mean, he does talk about poverty and then pulls out a couple cans out of the pantry and gives them to people. But the fact of the matter is that's not justice coming. He hasn't done anything in central Ohio to make a difference, in my mind, in the neighborhoods that I work in.
The fact of the matter is that they are on the ideological left, far left side of the spectrum, where they believe it's the government's responsibility to do everything. We believe much more, no pun intended. We believe that it would be better for government to move out of the way.
When I see the state in just a state of disarray, I'm not being faithful to God or to Christ, as I understand the faithfulness of my calling, if I stand back and say nothing.
Parsley dismissed the idea that We Believe Ohio is a liberal answer to Reformation Ohio.
Everybody's gonna vote.
Well, if it's an answer, they've got a lot of work to do. In Reformation Ohio's last event in Youngstown, Ohio, we presented the gospel to 25,000 people. We knocked on over 20,000 doors. We were there standing in the place of righteousness and for justice. And I think in their last event, they had 15 show up to go out door to door. So to compare the two is really not in the same ballpark.
They're not the same, but for the moment, the passion that both Ahrens and Parsley have seem equally strong. Jesus taught, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." Neither of these men is meek, and neither is waiting around to inherit anything. This is Jake Tapper for Nightline in Columbus, Ohio.